Have you checked the children? Your little messenger.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Fuego here.
And we are here to do the final review, well, not the final Locke and Key review, but the final review of the Locke and Key proper series. There were 6 volumes, and this is volume 6, Alpha and Omega.
Indeed.
And in my book here, in my library edition, it is the back half of the book, except volume 6 is the only one that was 7 issues long. So this is my beginning of it halfway through here.
Indeed.
And
that's because
Fuego has the final book there.
Yep, if I consulted proper, so we had Locke and Key Omega, which was 1 through 5, and it was a limited issue series, and then we had Locke and Key Alpha, which was a 2-issue little like postscript of sorts, so to speak. So yeah. Crazy.
So
But Alpha and Omega, obviously, and what a finale, man. Wow.
yeah, before we
I was
even
just
dive into it,
beyond emotion.
okay, so I think our overall thoughts might last a little bit longer on this, because this is the culmination of the entire thing. And guys, we are going to be spoiling things that happen in the first 5 volumes, and possibly spoiling things that happen ultimately in the Netflix series. So beware of that, right? We don't know for sure. There are going to be differences from the Netflix series to the comics, but this is the final book, and it was, in my opinion, the most impactful. I still think we need to do a ranking, so let's prepare that for Sunday as well.
Oh, wow, okay.
I know it's a lot, but I think it's going to be worth having. So we'll do a ranking of all of the volumes, and this book, doing the overall thoughts, I love it. I think that this is the payoff for everything that Joe Hill set up through the first 5 volumes. It's the payoff for almost every single character that was introduced and played out through the entire series. And it was a return to Volume 1 for what, to me, was the most important message of the series. And I absolutely adore it. This volume is what solidifies this to me as, in my opinion, I enjoy this more than any other comic book series I've ever read. I know that's saying a lot, and I know that's hyperbolic to some of you guys, but
very high benchmark for
I'm
people.
speaking from personal experience, and Fuego understands, having read the final issue,
We talked
why
about it on the drive back from the film we reviewed tonight.
this book ultimately, this whole series, this whole 6-volume story is basically an acceptance of your father's death. And I have been struggling with that ever since I'm 26. And it's this book, having read the final volume once again, it had been probably, God, I mean, it's been 8 years since I've read it, I think. And
it probably felt so fresh, right?
it did. It felt so fresh, and I finished it, and I was like, oh, that's right. That's why this is my favorite comic book series. And that is over Preacher. That is over Sandman. That is definitely over Watchmen, because that's low on my list. But that's over the Superman, All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison. Like, I love a lot of comic books, but this is my favorite comic book story, because to me, this is, and I think you'll appreciate this, which is why I touched you. I think this is the perfect blending of novelized storytelling and graphic storytelling. Do you know what I mean? It has the long-term tie-ins that, in my experience, the Harry Potter books had. I don't know if Dark Tower has things seeded in book 1 that are paid off in book 7.
Oh yeah.
Like, okay, so it's that kind of thing for you.
He learned from his pops to a degree, but I honestly feel like the fact that he had more experience in the graphic medium and the written medium specifically without any images, it helped him to just work through this better and make it more impactful.
It was written beautifully, and the artwork by Gabriel Rodriguez is just bar none. It's top. It's top tier. Again, it's more consistent. I would really say that his work is more consistent than any artist in history. Other artists had what might be considered evolutions or variations or changes as they do it.
Or like maybe
Gabriel
you prefer
had
other people's visual approach better.
Gabriel's consistency of vision, I've said it in a number of reviews now, is one of the tops in all of comic history. And I absolutely love this series for so many reasons that we'll dive into. But specifically this 6th volume just blew me away and tied everything together and made me cry no less than 3 times. And I absolutely love it for all of those reasons. And I know I gushed a while, but guys, you gotta bear with me. I love this series. You saw in my Locke Key trailer reaction for Netflix, I love this series, and this volume is ultimately the reason that tied everything together, which is why I love it as much as I do. So I'm going to shut up. I'm going to hand you the floor now
Boy, is
for
that
your
tough
overall
to follow
thoughts. Well, look, it's not tough to follow because you're a first-time reader, and that's what I love about it.
So
I've been telling you about it since we've known each other for the past 6 years, and I'm deeply curious to your overall thoughts. I know we've had a little bit of back and forth about it, but I want everyone else to know that I've loved it for years, for the decade that it's been around. And Fuego is new to everything but the first volume, and so I'm anxious for you guys to hear his thoughts. Fuego, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. I still can't believe how the first volume didn't capture me initially the way that it did you and did so many other people. I always like to shout out Jason Chamberlain because, you know, he is a really good friend of ours and supporter of the show here that has been to many of our panels, and we've hung out with him countless times, and he loves this series.
He's a pure of heart dude.
Yeah, very, very much so. This is one where, you know, Joe Hill's father is notorious for the fact that he can't stick the landing all too often. Stephen King, as much as I love him, he can't figure out how to end stories, but holy shit, man, as far as bringing back so many payoffs, as far as just cutting and just tying up all the loose ends, as far as all the different little plot threads that are put forth throughout the entirety of this series, Joe gives so much satisfaction to pretty much all of them, and does it in a manner where I felt so significantly satisfied. I didn't feel like he half-assed any of it. I felt like he did have a legitimate vision, and maybe it was just like glimmers initially, but as he probably took a closer look as he was finally staring down the ending, he had a very clear and concise vision, and it all made sense, and it all just hit so effectively and so emotionally. And this is a series that I will champion significantly because of the fact that, you know, granted, his father had problems with substance abuse and stuff like that here and there, you know, and he finally, like, got himself right. But the one thing the King family has always put forth is the fact that there was genuine love, care, consideration, and there was also not just love amongst themselves, but a love of reading and writing and creating, and that apple falls so close and is so evident in this book and the entirety of the series, obviously. So.
Yeah, because you appreciate it on a familial level that I didn't have going into it. You appreciate, you've read everything Stephen King, and now you've read everything Joe Hill.
Yeah.
This was the final piece of that puzzle for you.
And seeing the connections, but seeing how it's so distinctively different and not borrowing from his father this is. I mean, people have been like, oh, Fireman's like The Stand, and they've, you know, criticized other bits of his storytelling here and there by, you know, not doing its own thing as much. But this is so different than anything, but yet it still has the sentimental aspect and the love of a close-knit family that is just, I mean, even our villain in this story realizes the importance of family. It's crazy to me. Yeah.
So, all right, now we're going to dive deeper into it, and I mean, overall thoughts, we love it. The storytelling is second to none. Well, second to very, very few.
Yeah.
In my opinion, second to none. In his opinion, second to very, very few. No. But the artistic ability of Gabriel Rodriguez is phenomenal. And of course, we have to mention Jay Photos, who's as the color artist. It's listed as colorist and sometimes, but sometimes they prefer to be called color artist because Jay is an artist, straight up an artist. We know that for a fact, and if we haven't put it up yet, there will be an interview with Jay coming up in the very near future. It's a full half hour talking to this guy. It was awesome.
We got to tour his studio, see his creative space, and where he's.
But he colored this entire thing, and the 7th volume, which is yep. We have one more review coming after this, but But guys, I mean, this whole thing is just one of the best things you'll ever give a chance. But we're gonna go through now. This might be the longest review, but honestly,
well, it's the longest of the series.
It's the longest of the series, so it makes sense. So we've been left once again with Bodhi. Dodge is still in Bodhi's body. Bodhi is still flying around as the ghost.
Zack, he's a man of many names at this point.
He has the Omega Key, so he's able to go open the black door, which we know what that is based on our Volume 5 review. It's where all the demons from the Lovecraftian part of this whole thing come from.
And
the soul tapeworms.
And directly under the Lovecraft house. I mean, it's basically right under the home that, you know, this whole Locke family has lived in.
By the way, how
for
cool,
generations.
How cool was Dodge's explanation of the universe when he's like, my mom got eaten by my dad, and then he got eaten by something else even bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, it's not a nice place.
And she'd already eaten my siblings and all this other stuff.
Like, how cool was that? How cool was that? Like, I never in a million years expected that sort of insight into that area.
And that's where it showed the fact that his regression and just different approach made so much more sense, especially from being in our world for so long. He was like, yeah, I altered my approach over the course of being around all of you. And I was like, maybe a different course of action is better.
So we see Bodhi is now, he's using the giant key to find the crown in order to control the shadows.
Which goes back a few volumes before, where again, Tyler got big and hid it from him.
But that's the thing. Joe is very good at using Dodge at the very beginning of a volume to really throw you off with how cruel he can be.
Precedent, man.
And so you see here, it's at the lighthouse, and he notices that the family inside noticed him. And so, unfortunately, we see the very next page, a rogue tidal wave hit the lighthouse, and there were no survivors. So it just shows that Dodge is still willing to do whatever it takes in order to achieve his goals. Now, this whole first issue is a juxtaposition of Dodge making his plans and Scott Kavanaugh coming back into the picture, along with, as you see, Jordan and Jackie. And Volume 5, I don't even know if we made mention during the review. Take a half step to your left.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I just want to make sure we're filling the gap. So we mentioned that there was very little even a mention.
I don't even think there was
any mention of Scott and Jamal and Jackie in Volume 5 because they had all had kind of a falling out towards the end of Volume 4.
And also there was all the flashback stuff with, you know, Rendell and like the original, I guess you could say, quartet of friends that discovered this, you know, this doorway. No, because it's
appropriate. Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
So Scott, his whole project is he's doing a senior video where he's going around to all the seniors that, of course, we know for storytelling purposes. What would you tell yourself as a freshman if you could? And there's a bunch of really good conversations, and we have to mention this. We have to show this,
of course,
because there's a
I screen captured it.
There's a few things. There's a few references to the Kingverse, and the most direct reference to the Kingverse of the whole book was one that Fuego missed, that I messaged to him when I saw it. I started laughing when I saw it because I think I missed it my first read through, but I saw it this time and I was like, oh my god, LOL, this is the funniest. Yeah, I did. I probably did something that lame because I do speak like that on text. And I was like, LOL, this is the best King reference ever. I can't wait till you see this. And there is something that is a blatant King reference later. Fuego didn't realize this was it. There is a cameo in this. King loves his cameos.
He does. Pet Sematary. I mean, he was in the Stand miniseries. I mean, he was in his fair share of things.
Who is that right there?
Is most definitely Papa King.
Who is that right there in the middle of a flashback?
Hail to the King.
Hail to the King. So that's awesome. But yeah. So Scott is getting filming stories from everyone, and we see that Tyler is distracted because he and Duncan are making something.
Yes.
We don't know what he's making though.
But
and then Kinsey
with metal.
Kinsey runs up and talks to Scott, and this is a turning point.
Very
because Scott even says, hey, this is only for seniors, and she's like, no, trust me, you're going to want to hear what I have to say.
Yeah.
And
that in turn spurs him to have
look
a
similar. At this. Again, Gabriel Rodriguez. It's simply her talking, and you see her completely break down, as she apologizes and realizes that she really screwed things up with all of her closest friends.
And this is where it's so important because of the fact that you see the tremendous dialogue, you read it, you feel it, but okay, the actual seeing part that I mentioned earlier, sorry, is made so apparent and distinctive and just literal, you know, and it sells it so much more, and it gives it the full package.
And we see characters have evolved between volumes. The mother,
the progression.
Mrs.
no
Locke
longer
is now
super
clean.
drunky. Yeah.
She's working through AA and going to meetings.
She has her 30-day chip, man. You know,
and then we get this amazing scene.
This is where, you know,
I love this. So
yeah.
Scott is trying to do his video, and he walks by a tattoo parlor. He's already tatted up, and his reasoning for his tattoos, how amazing was that? Where it's his armor.
Yeah, where he talks about the fact that I have over $1,000 as this Manchester boy on my body that's inked all the hell up. And when he walks up to all of them...
He says, that's my armor for fighting orcs and anything bad that comes my way.
And he walks up to all of them playing Magic the Gathering, which is funny because I've heard Joe is notoriously into Magic the Gathering.
I love that, because I used to play
a lot of Magic
yes,
too. Yeah,
dude,
yeah.
high five, come on.
Yeah,
give it up.
I was all about it.
Love it.
I had my
Dude,
red.
this series is so close to my heart for so many reasons.
No.
But yeah, he has this tattoo that says "Ready to live, ready to die for love, friends, and art."
Yes,
it's the most beautiful tattoo, dude.
It epitomizes just your adoration,
it epitomizes us, really, like for real, honestly.
And pretty much everything. Creativity, friends, and family are the three most important things, and anytime they can just coalesce with each other and just intertwine, there's nothing better for me in this existence, period.
And then at the end of the first issue, we see that
so
Dodge has gotten the Omega Key and he has access to the Black Door. And we don't know what he's got planned, but we know it has something to do with prom night.
Oh, and isn't it terrible when he sees Girl Skeleton? He's like, "You're too old to be wearing that dress, blah, blah, blah." Yep. And he's just talking smack to her dead corpse that's been rotting down there for God knows how long.
But it also shows that something is happening.
And that was the girl who's flying around with
right
the
here.
Right.
You see that
you get the
a little memory
about Aaron's the stuff that was taken out of her head. They're still down there, and they have escaped when he started knocking all the rocks down and stuff. And it plays heavily into some of the finale.
And I love that they're like, "How did they survive?" And it's like, well, you can't kill an idea.
Like, because we found that out with Kinsey, where they took the stuff from her head. Like, it didn't die even when it drowned. It was still there, man.
Now here's the second issue. Again, every issue of this series had such a big emotional impact, and this is called The Soldier. Yeah. And this is all about
Rufus, dude.
Rufus
Rufus
coming back
was
into the picture.
He was one of my favorite characters. He was in a lot of ways almost like the oh goodness, why am I having trouble remembering my?
He's the special need. He's the special needs person from any King story ever.
He's like our MOON man. He is like our.
He's our John Coffey from Green Mile.
That too. That too. Yeah.
So
Tom
anyway,
Cullen. God damn it! I have to
yeah.
remember this stuff, but there's so many names in my head from all these.
I got
stories.
to John Coffey before you got to Tom Cullen.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Exactly. Sorry, everybody.
MOON. That spells coffee.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
MOON. That spells Rufus. You know, at this particular.
So
rate.
Rufus is the special
so
needs boy who comes and he shows up. And he's the only one that can see ghosts. We saw from an earlier volume, he saw Sam Lesser.
Yeah,
and so he sees Bodhi, and Bodhi freaks out. He's like, "Oh my God, you can see me. No one knows I'm not actually me." And he's like, "You gotta play it cool." And then Rufus is like, "No playing it cool." And he sees Bodhi, he knows it's actually Dodge, and he just straight tries to murder him.
Yeah, and then Tyler is just like bash like across his head, and he's like, "No, you're." And
they don't even have to show it though. He just shows the wind up.
Yeah.
How good is that? That's all you need. That's all Gabriel Rodriguez needs to show you. You show the wind up,
scripting too,
and then you show the next page. Where he's got this giant bandage on his head.
Yeah, and they're like, "No, you're not going to the group home like we originally talked about because Ellie was killed by Dodge, you know, Zach, whatever the hell."
Now you're going to the mental home.
At that particular time, you are going to the mental home the same as Aaron. Miss Voss. Yeah, white.
And then we see that the Locks go down to play at the cave to have a little fun day, and we actually get a little bit of Tyler and his mom reconciling a bit after all of her screw-ups. She shows that she got her 30-day chip.
I love the hell out of you.
She's really proud of it. Yeah.
I love the hell out of this book.
Love the hell out of you.
I love the hell out of this book, man.
That's a little teary, too. It is. It's so good. He pays off so much. And then we get some of the really cool stuff. We get Rufus, who sees things differently. He imagines himself in a Nazi Velociraptor prison camp.
Yeah.
And then he has his little, his figure, his robot figure to protect him because his captain army guy got ripped in half by Dodge in a previous volume.
And it was returned to him, obviously. But just seeing him and Bodhi when they were initially like having those play dates together, that shizzle was so... It just made me remember when I was playing with my G.I. Joes versus my Ninja Turtles as a kid in the 80s and 90s and stuff.
But dude, how good was this setup where he sees Aaron and he says he has to stop Dodge, and she stops saying it's white, and she says, Dodge, stop, Dodge. Like, I love that. And then it comes into play later.
She still had this intuition.
Dude, when she rams that dude, like when Rufus is trying to escape, and she's like, stop, Dodge. Go, stop, Dodge. I was like, oh, yes.
Knocking down the orderly who loses their glasses, and after he's been working on the...
I was literally cheering, reading a comic book.
So much fulfillment.
And again, I caught myself straight crying at a part later where I'm like, I'm crying about a character that doesn't exist right now.
Yeah.
This character doesn't exist, but I care so much that I'm literally losing tears right now. Well, it's fucking crazy.
Just to kind of give my commentary on that,
please.
How many people that we care about, actors, sports people, I mean, Kobe recently, you know, stuff like that, we cry and we share so much sadness, even though we don't know them personally, but they have brought so much light and just fulfillment and enjoyment to our lives. And I honestly, these characters feel as real to me as somebody I've never met in real life that's out there somewhere.
No, 100%.
You know? So,
and this page in particular, to show Kinsey's evolution, right?
Well, and also,
from the beginning all the way up to prom night.
But also, this like brings back the just kinship and just love of a brother and sister that we felt so much in 5 when they were doing the time traveling stuff together, and they felt so much closer than we'd seen them in any previous volume. And where she's like, how do I look, and so on and so forth, and she's trying to tell him to go to prom, which he decides to at the behest of Duncan, you know, and he's like, put on this stupid
we'll get to
shirt.
that.
Sorry,
but this, we have to talk about this because we get a bit of Rufus's backstory, and we get to see some of the interactions between him and his mom, which are just like, we see the horrible stuff that Dodge did to her, his mom, while she was still around,
and stuff he's downplaying too.
Indeed, but look at this beautiful scene between Dodge and his mom, where he says, my bucket is full, ma'am.
Yeah.
Enough clams for the entire platoon. She says, mission accomplished, Private Whedon. And then he says, ma'am, all right, I'll show you the pictures after. Ma'am, I wish we could do this every day, ma'am. I wish I could be useful every day. And she says, belay that talk, Private. You're useful to me every day, every hour. Anyone who knows how to love is useful to someone, Rufus.
And that's picture,
and it's just,
that's the picture, and she just picks him up and is just hugging him.
She doesn't care that he's got some deficits or slowness. Everyone is special for different reasons. It's just some of the most beautiful messaging, dude.
And in the whole series, slight spoiler, they mention Rufus's dad the entire time, and that he's on assignment, whatever.
He just left. He said, and he talks about it. He says he doesn't like having a retard for a son.
Yeah,
it's so sad. But look at this. How did you like this panel? I thought you might have loved seeing that. It's the most gorgeous panel. When Scott arrives in a wedding dress
because they lost a
bet
to Jackie.
Him and Jackie,
about, running on high heels and stuff.
Dude, tell me. Okay. All right, hang on. I might have to cut this.
It was all the fulfillment of all these different characters that had major parts in certain like bits of it, and yet they all had their day in this one. You know, that's why they had that extra issue. So
continuing on, it's just so good, guys. We got sidetracked, but
it's vast, it's immense, and
there's
so
something that happens here between Rufus and his figure that I don't want to show because I want people to experience on their own. But it's one of those moments that brought the tears up.
Same. There are multiple tear-worthy aspects in this final volume that just, my lord, man.
Mm-hmm.
And that one is definitely definitive.
So here we go. This one is I think where Omega started, because that was the first 2 issues, and then Omega is the final 5. And
Vice versa, actually. So
oh, really?
Yeah.
It was
yeah,
Omega
so
for the first 5?
Yep, Omega for the first 5, and then they
Okay.
had Alpha and Omega for the last 2.
Okay,
and,
gotcha.
Yeah, it was just the whole
Fair enough.
everything going down on the cave and
But
all
but
the
this
stuff
one,
on prom,
part 3,
on
part 3
prom
is
night.
where it starts. Where you know, Bodhi is going out at 9:30 at night, and the mom's like, "What are you doing? You can't go out this late." And he's just like, "Oh, sorry, it's my night. You don't matter anymore. Shadows take care of her." And so he enacts his plan.
Yeah.
Stuff starts to go crazy.
Yeah, heads down there, and he does eventually break character in a larger setting later.
But
where
it
he's
makes
just
we
like,
have to show that he does unfortunately force a bunch of alcohol down her throat after she's been sober for a very long time.
Yeah, where it's kind of crazy because you would think that, okay, he could have killed her, but no, he was obviously, you know, if Kinsey came back and, you know, Tyler and so on, they would just be just horribly upset with her and everything after all the, you know, time clean and whatnot, so, yeah.
Now, we do see that we are confirmed that Tyler's lure is indeed made by some whispering metal, and he's got some whispering metal in there.
We don't know
enough
exactly what it
to
is.
make something of his own.
Which, yes.
He and Duncan are working, and this was fun. The whole book they've been working on restoring this Dodge Charger, and then there's this beautiful scene where Duncan's like, "Hey man, this is for you. You know, I appreciate you helping me out and stuff." And then of course Shadows attack after Tyler takes off, and
There's
it becomes
lots
a
of
bit
them,
of a
too.
there's a
Lots of
ton of
variety.
action, and then
And
here
they kill a lot of people. Let's just be
here
fair.
is the big King reference here.
Yeah.
There's a wonderful little Carrie homage. It's so dope. Of course, it's Scott and Jamal
Scott
that
and
do
Jamal,
this.
and they
even
planned it.
say, like, nobody gets us. And I felt like, I was like, oh, that'd be Fuego and I. but there's I'm going to start skipping ahead. I can't show you guys everything without spoiling at this
because
point.
this is where it's really getting the part
Starting to
where,
get into the
like,
nitty-gritty.
character resolutions and what
But
really
there,
transpires at the end.
so Ty has an exchange with Jordan, which is really amazing. Jordan, his ex-girlfriend, that we haven't seen from since Volume 4 as well. But that's extraordinarily satisfying.
Yeah,
that's
it
the
is.
thing. That's the name of the game in this whole series, is it's satisfying.
Yeah.
There's a really sad moment where Kinsey comes home to find the mother after her attack. Unfortunately, she just thinks that her mother backslid, and she has some extraordinarily harsh... How sad was that?
It was
When she
horribly sad.
literally
She's
said,
like,
I hate you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never going to
And
love
yet-
you
and
ever
yet
again
this
after
is where
this.
the plot was so just vast and, I mean, horribly calculated by, you know, Bode / Luke / Zach, whatever Dodge you want to call him. And he was like, okay, she's going to come back, see mother drunk, and then she's not going to hang around because she promised her mother that she was just going to go home. And,
So
you
she
know,
goes to join
not
the
do
Rave
anything.
in the Cave.
Yep, and the Rave in the Cave is the post-drunken party.
I love this
that
guy
Scott has put
singing
together.
his song.
After earlier, where Tyler was talking about how much he hated this one guy who used to play Dave Matthews at the parties and trying to like swoon girls.
Oh,
with
that
him.
was the Dave Matthews joke.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
He's like, do you like Dave Matthews? No, he's like, I wrote that one myself. She's like, I like it. I especially like how you rhymed early acceptance at Yale with my extracurricular was teaching Braille.
Yeah.
So funny, dude. Joe Hill knows how to write
He does.
comedy, dude.
No, it's great.
But this is again, it's the same. This is Gabriel, right? Gabe Rodriguez just knocking it out of the park. These 2-page spreads where normally it's the head key stuff, but now you get to see the rave and how it's going on, and
I love these,
everyone
the
moves
whole
slightly.
connective stuff going down.
And they're watching Scott's video that he made in the first issue of the series. Like, I love it.
And
I
that's-
absolutely love it.
And that's where he will do those connective, you know, page-to-page stuff, but also these big splashes like that one, right?
Yeah, so of course, Bodhi shows up with trying to enact his Dodge's plan and get everyone to go down the stairs, but they don't believe him. They're like, what are you talking about? Why would Duncan be down there? And he's just like, God damn it, just come down here. And he's like, oh,
And he's
crap.
like, oh, I broke
character,
character,
didn't I? Oops.
Yeah.
And so then...
Held it true for 2 months.
Then
blah, blah, blah.
this happens, and just chaos ensues
Yeah.
from this point forward. How awesome is that, though?
Yeah.
Like, do you really... How is Netflix going to do... They have enough money to pull this off, but...
But will they do it as brutally as it actually transpires?
I wish
Is
we
my
had enough time.
biggest-
Maybe
is
Sunday
my
we should also
biggest
do a
speculation,
predictions, you know? What are we going to see on the Netflix show? What do we really think is going to happen?
Well, and then the first season, too, and only 10 episodes.
Yeah.
Because I think they already confirmed the second season.
It's the first 3 volumes. It's got to be the first 3 volumes.
Has to be. Yeah.
So
I'll feel you there. And
Please
also
don't.
Rufus has a...
Ooh. Yeah, and then Rufus is still on the march.
Yeah.
Heading towards the crowd, and so it's the Rave in the Cave, the big confrontation, basically
Trying
for
to
the rest of
open
the
that
way.
door, man.
And we see that Dodge, or I'm sorry, we see that that Duncan and Ty have figured out how to set up the garage so that the shadows can't get to him. But meanwhile, we see that already Jackie has fallen off the stairs, and Scott drops away too. And it just leads to some craziness.
Well, no, he drops down to join her.
He's like, yeah, I can't leave her alone. And then this happens, the craziness with... so the cops arrive with Detective Matuku, and the shadows attack them, and they shoot, and unfortunately Ty gets a bullet to the gut.
Yeah,
it's so crazy.
How they try to resolve all of this. This is where we're getting to the real...
Yeah, so this is where I'm going to start to get...
This
careful.
is where we have to be much more vague and stuff like
that.
But
let me just show this, okay? So this is what's interesting. So the whole time you think that Dodge is preparing to let a bunch of the things take over a bunch of us and create an army on Earth. We think that that's his ultimate plan.
Take over the
entire
entire
world.
world.
But then stuff starts to happen. And you guys, look... Any of you that watched that trailer and is like, this looks too magical for me, and if you've made it this far into our movie or comic reviews, you'll see right here, this is a horror book. So he just literally cuts this dude in half and impales these are high school kids that he is just murdering for no reason, because no, he is not trying to create an army by any stretch.
Yeah, it's just like a different type of army. It's almost like a little bit more, infiltration as opposed to like a complete, just overwhelming aspect without going into too much detail.
But this is where the interesting change comes in. It turns out that Scott and Jackie have both been turned by the parasites, and so it adds so much drama to the next scene, and this is stuff I absolutely will not show.
And the fact that they're beefing themselves up with 2 of the keys that we have seen used previously by even Rendell and his quartet of friends. So.
And this is not a big spoiler, but it is something where we get to see some closure.
It's incredible.
Where inside the mending cabinet, we see Tyler getting to talk to his father once again after all this time.
Yeah.
And it's just gorgeously done.
The mending
it
cabinet
leads to the rest.
Such a big aspect of fulfillment and foreshadowing being just brought back to,
and then this is a really final,
powerful,
unbelievable, powerful scene and discussion.
Jordan and Kinsey.
That's just it's just, guys. The stakes,
well,
right?
And the stakes that they're put into in that scene, they're like, okay, one of you can do this, one of you can do that, and one of you can do that. Who of the 3 of you is going to sacrifice themselves versus who's going to
be a pet?
A pet, and then who is going to just allow a demon to
take them over? Make your choice.
Man, yes, but
choose
wisely.
Yeah. So things get crazy. Again, this is where we really can't. This is the last 2 issues.
This is where you're like, all the proverbial shit is hitting the fan.
Indeed. And I'll show you this just so you see how crazy it gets. In the middle there, you see a bunch of
gouged out.
Eyes gouged out, hanging, just waiting for their turns, and you see how evil Scott's gotten and everything.
And we don't even want to give the full extent of what Dodge's whole plan has.
No, but how cool was that? Seeing what he's sitting upon. It's like, oh.
And then because his plan is evolved, as we kind of hinted at a little bit
again,
earlier.
Gabriel Rodriguez.
Those are so good.
The panel just shrinking down,
Indeed.
so you see that he's like, his original plan was this, and then it shrank to this, and then it shrank to this, and it's like, why? And it's an explanation for everything, and it makes so much sense.
It's whittled down, and it totally does. It really does. With a larger family of sorts, you can't really have that same sort of love and camaraderie, because you can't just give that much attention, affection, and all that other stuff.
And you legitimately don't know how they're going to end this, like, successfully.
Yeah,
and then you see what ends up happening and what is forged and what is created and how it's used. And even that, I can't show any of that, but that is some of the most effectively emotional bits where people are being stronger than they ever knew they could, and there's goodbyes and togetherness and, you know, just so much that was so heavy but so cathartic to see play out.
Big time. And even in a lot of ways, I don't think we can really mention anything that happened in the 7th and final epilogue volume because of the fact that it changes the scope of so much that we saw at the end of issue 6.
Were you surprised by this page? I was like, holy, really?
Not surprised necessarily, but well,
I didn't think
about
the fact that they
do the
did
same thing. Yeah, I can't say.
Oh, and then the same room from the first volume.
I mean, I was just thinking like what the fact that just
no,
like,
I know, but this was the exact same room in the first volume. He's sitting in the exact same spot.
Yeah, callbacks for days, man. You know, some stuff Tyler decides to do in the 7th.
I didn't notice this there, though.
Yeah, yeah, but some stuff Tyler decides to do in the 7th and final issue is really kind of impressive.
You think almost... the 7th issue is going to be epilogue, but it's really another finale. It really is. Because there's also final confrontations that you didn't expect you'd get.
Tying in more tying up, I should specify, more loose ends, man. And
indeed.
It really did that significantly.
This right here, how amazing was these two things? How they're looking at each other.
That was what we were mentioning earlier. And, you know, just the whole dialogue that Kinsey
But look at the pictures that they're actually looking at each other from across the way.
Yeah, deliberately done, man. Very much so.
Again, we can't show any of this stuff. I mean, I can show a nice little...
stuff with the character's father, stuff with the bike. I mean, just
when you understand the story, you understand why this is as good as it is.
Yeah, 100%.
And then, we can't show any of the last few pages by any stretch.
There's nothing.
But there's something here.
I was gonna say donuts. I'll do that. Donuts, is that like better?
Spoilers. No, it's this last scene. I had forgotten about this last scene, and I'm gonna try and talk about it without breaking down, but
I thought of you right after I read it, man.
There's 100% a reason why this is my favorite comic book series, and rereading it and getting to this point, it just re-solidified that. I actually read this and I was like, that's right, that's why I love this as much as I did, and I still love it as much as I did, and I just it's just phenomenal. It's the most impacted I've been by a comic. It's so well told. It is such a fantastic finale, and even it has two kind of finales. I love this book. It is my favorite comic book series, even above some of the greats, because of the interpersonal relationships that ring true to me personally. And I just absolutely love it.
Well, I would contend that the theme of family and just contending with these just catastrophes is the bigger theme. Yep. But at the heart of that, there's an even more centralized theme that is of a father and a son, and trying to just deal with grief in that regard. Yep. And just, you know, the blame of yourself and the misunderstandings that can be there sometimes. And so what rich storytelling, man. This is not kiddie pool deep. This is as enrichful and
cathartically fulfilling
as you'll find. So
it's just amazing. If you guys haven't experienced Locke Key at this point, I don't know how long after the series has dropped that you could be watching this, but if you, I mean, I'm sure they didn't get this far in the first season.
This is evergreen, though, man. This is stuff people
it really
can
is,
from
and I'm sure the second. I think it'll be 2 seasons, right? 2 seasons to get through everything. If you could,
I mean, they could do 3. You know,
3,
like
2 volumes each.
Like
but I think they're reaching into 3 for the first season. So, but they could slow it down. In 3, they could slow it down with that February. That could be almost a whole season by itself. So they could really legitimately stretch this out into 3 seasons very easily.
All the flashbacks
and a 4th for the extra, and then World War Keys, which is, by the way, there's supposed to be a new series called World War Keys coming out, and that we are still going to have at least one Locke and Key review of the 4 one-shots that come after this 6th volume. There are 4 one-shots that are just side stories, and there is one epilogue to this entire series that I can't wait for Fuego to read.
To the epilogue.
There is an epilogue to the epilogue that contains the locks directly.
I need it in my life.
So, yeah, so expect that review coming. I don't know. If we're doing this daily, then expect it tomorrow. We're going to review it in a couple of days, but Then we are literally 1 week out from reviewing the entire Locke Key Season 1 as we record this, and we are super excited. So if you guys have been enjoying these, we greatly appreciate you watching them all. If you did enjoy this video, click the like button and subscribe to make sure that you don't miss our Volume 7 review or anything else Locke Key coming forward. I really appreciate you guys sticking through with us. And while you're down there, in the description box is our link to our Patreon, where you can actually request movies for us to review. And if you want to request a graphic novel for us to review, we can do that for patrons as well. I'll just buy one copy and share it with Fuego, and then we'll do a review. So yeah, if you want to do that, you can do that as well. But thank you guys very much for watching and sticking through these 6 volumes, this complete Locke Key story. There is more to come, but this is the crux of the story, and I'm very glad we finally got to sit and talk about it all for you.
It was a joy, dude. It really, really was. More so than I even anticipated, honestly. But, you know, being Joe, I shouldn't have expected anything less. So.
Yeah, fair enough. But even when we, you know, when I was telling you about it, you hadn't read any Joe, so you really didn't know what to expect. I'm glad that it lived up to the expectations that I set, which were very high, granted. So
it honestly exceeded them, dude.
I love it. I love hearing that. I love hearing that. So thank you guys very much for watching, and until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, Jaime and Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.